Have you ever looked up at the night sky and just thought, are we alone? I mean, really alone.
It's a question that's haunted humanity for, well, probably as long as we've been able to look up and wonder.
And that's what we're diving deep into today, the search for extraterrestrial life.
And not just if it's out there, but what it might be like.
Right, and that's where things get really interesting.
Because we're not just talking about finding another Earth with, slightly taller trees or purple grass.
Yeah, no little green men hiding behind the moon somewhere.
Well, maybe, but the possibilities are so much bigger than that. We keep talking about life forms so different from anything we can imagine that we might not even recognize them as life.
Okay, now you've got my attention. So where do we even begin to wrap our heads around this?
Well, a good place to start is with that famous Fermi paradox.
Right, the one that basically says, if the universe is teeming with life, where is everybody?
Exactly. The universe is unbelievably vast, billions of galaxies, each with billions of stars. Statistically speaking, there should be other planets out there with conditions suitable for life.
So lots of potential real estate for alien life.
Exactly. But we haven't found any definitive evidence yet. So that leads us to some pretty mind-blowing questions.
Like, is intelligent life actually super rare? Or maybe they're out there, but they're choosing to stay hidden.
Ooh, that's a chilling thought, a whole galaxy of hidden civilizations. But let's back up a bit. When we talk about life, are we being too Earth-centric? I mean, do we assume that alien life will look and act and, well, be just like us?
You mean breathing oxygen, needing water, that kind of thing?
Exactly. We tend to define life based on what we know here on Earth. But what if those are just Earth-specific conditions? What if life can exist in ways we haven't even imagined?
Okay, I'm trying to imagine an alien breathing, I don't know, methane and sipping sulfuric acid. Now, that's what I call alien.
See, you're getting it. Even here on Earth, we found extremophiles, organisms that thrive in conditions that would kill most other life forms.
Right, like those weird bacteria they found in those super hot acidic pools in Yellowstone. Those things are like the ultimate survivors.
Exactly. So if life can exist in those extreme environments right here on our own planet, who knows what's possible out there in the vastness of space?
I feel like we need to throw out our Earth-centric rulebook and start thinking outside the box.
Completely. And that brings us to another mind-bending possibility. Silicon-based life.
Silicon-based life, isn't that like straight out of science fiction?
It might sound far-fetched, but think about it. Silicon sits right below carbon on the periodic table. They share some similar chemical properties, so under the right conditions, who's to say that silicon couldn't form the basis of life?
So instead of searching for planets just like Earth, maybe we should be looking for places that seem totally inhospitable to us.
Now you're thinking like an astrobiologist. We need to widen our search criteria, but that doesn't mean we should ignore our own cosmic backyard.
Right, our solar system. Are there any promising candidates for life closer to home?
Well, while finding intelligent life in our solar system is pretty unlikely, there are a few places that have scientists really excited.
Okay, spill the beans. Where should we be looking?
Well, there's Europa, Enceladus, and Titan, to name a few, and each one is fascinating in its own right.
Europa, that's the one with the giant ocean under the ice, right?
Exactly. Europa is one of Jupiter's moons, and it's thought to have a global ocean of liquid water beneath its icy surface. And get this, it could contain twice as much water as all the oceans on Earth combined.
Wow, that's a lot of H2O, but it's trapped under all that ice, so how could life even exist there?
But here's the kicker. There's evidence to suggest that there might be hydrothermal vents on Europa's ocean floor.
Hydrothermal vents, aren't those like underwater volcanoes, the things that spew out superheated water and all sorts of nasty chemicals?
Yeah, pretty much. They're definitely not the kind of place you'd want to go for a swim. But here's where it gets really interesting. On Earth, hydrothermal vents support entire ecosystems that are completely independent of sunlight.
No way. So you're saying there could be whole communities of alien creatures living down there, totally cut off from the surface?
It's definitely a possibility. And what's even more exciting is that we've found similar vents here on Earth, teeming with these bizarre life forms called extremophiles that thrive on the chemicals spewing from the vents.
So maybe no alien mermaids, but some pretty hardcore bacteria, at least?
Maybe. The point is, if life can thrive in those extreme conditions on Earth, it's not a stretch to imagine similar life forms existing on Europa.
Okay, Europa has officially moved to the top of my places to visit in the galaxy list. But what about Enceladus? I remember hearing something about that one.
Enceladus. This is Saturn's moon that's been putting on quite a show for us. We're talking about massive plumes of water vapor and ice particles erupting hundreds of kilometers into space.
So it's like a giant space fountain. That's pretty cool. But what makes these plumes so special in terms of finding life?
Well, what's fascinating is what these plumes contain. Complex organic molecules, the very building blocks of life as we know it.
Hold on. So we're finding the ingredients for life just spewing out into space. Does that mean there's definitely life down there?
Not necessarily, but it's a very tantalizing clue. The presence of organic molecules doesn't automatically equal life, but it does raise the question, where are they coming from?
Okay, Enceladus is officially on my radar now, too. But before we get too carried away with those icy moons, you mentioned one more place, Titan.
Ah, Titan, Saturn's largest moon, and a place that seems like it's straight out of science fiction. It's the only place in our solar system, besides Earth, that we know of that has stable liquid on its surface.
Wait, I thought you said it was unlikely to have life beyond microbes in our solar system. What kind of life could exist in liquid? Well, what is it exactly?
Here's where it gets really strange. We're not talking about liquid water on Titan. It's liquid methane and ethane, hydrocarbons that we usually think of as gases here on Earth.
So like a world where it rains gasoline. Okay, Titan is definitely weird. And you're saying life could exist in that.
It's a possibility that astrobiologists are taking very seriously. Imagine life with a completely different biochemistry, one based on methane instead of water. Life as we don't know it.
This is seriously blowing my mind. So we've got these amazing places right here in our own solar system that could be harboring some form of life. But how do we actually go about finding it?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's one that scientists are tackling from multiple angles. But imagine for a second that you were the scientist. Where would you start looking?
That's a tough one. I guess I'd start by looking for planets that are just like Earth, right? You know, the Goldilocks planets. Not too hot, not too cold, with liquid water, a breathable atmosphere, the basics.
That's a good starting point, and that's exactly what scientists are doing. We're looking for planets in the habitable zone of their stars, where conditions might be just right for liquid water to exist.
Right, the habitable zone. Makes sense. But just because a planet is in the habitable zone doesn't mean it's automatically teeming with alien life, right?
Exactly. It's not a guarantee. The habitable zone is more like a starting point. We need to look for other clues, like biosignatures.
Biosignatures, that sounds fancy. Is it just a scientific way of saying signs of life?
Pretty much, biosignatures are like chemical fingerprints that could indicate the presence of life. For example, if we detect a lot of oxygen in a planet's atmosphere, that's a pretty good hint that something might be producing it, just like plants do here on Earth.
So instead of looking for little green men, we're looking for the air they breathe. That's pretty clever.
Exactly. We're searching for any hint of life, whether it's microbes on a distant moon or, well, something a bit more intelligent.
Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. Are we talking about aliens building giant space lasers and sending us coded messages?
Well, maybe not lasers, but scientists are definitely listening for signals. That's where SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, comes in. For decades, scientists have been scanning the skies for radio signals or other electromagnetic emissions that might be artificial.
So, like an intergalactic radio station playing alien top 40 hits.
Haha, maybe not top 40, but you never know. The point is, we're looking for any signal that stands out from the cosmic background noise, something that we can't explain naturally.
I bet that's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. The universe is a pretty big place.
It is a monumental task, for sure. But there have been some tantalizing moments that have kept SETI researchers on the edge of their seats, like that wow signal, for example.
Oh, yeah. That was that weird radio signal they picked up back in the 70s that nobody could explain, right? Didn't somebody literally write wow on the printout?
That's the one. It was this strong, narrow-band signal that lasted for 72 seconds and then just vanished. To this day, nobody knows for sure what caused it. Was it a natural phenomenon, or could it have been a beacon from an advanced civilization?
Okay, now I'm getting chills. That's the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night, wondering if we're really alone in the universe. But even if we don't find any radio signals, are there other signs of advanced alien technology that we could be looking for?
Absolutely, and this is where it gets really mind-bending. We're learning more and more about our own impact on Earth's environment, right?
Right, climate change, pollution, all that fun stuff.
Exactly. So we can start to imagine how a super advanced civilization might leave similar traces on their planet, but on a much larger scale.
Wait, you're talking about looking for alien pollution, like a planet choked with smog could actually be a sign of intelligent life.
It's not as crazy as it sounds. What about it? An advanced civilization might be producing huge amounts of waste heat, altering their atmosphere in detectable ways, or even building massive structures that we could spot from light years away.
Hold on, massive structures. Are we talking about something like a Dyson sphere?
You got it. A Dyson sphere is a hypothetical megastructure that completely encapsulates a star, capturing all of its energy. It's a concept that's been around in science fiction for ages, but some scientists believe it might actually be possible for a sufficiently advanced civilization.
A Dyson sphere. That's like next-level engineering. Imagine harnessing the power of an entire star. But how could we even spot something like that from Earth?
Well, a structure that massive would likely emit a significant amount of infrared radiation, which we could potentially detect with our telescopes. Of course, there could be natural explanations for those observations, but it's definitely something to consider.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. What would it mean for humanity if we actually found evidence of a civilization capable of building a Dyson sphere?
That's a profound question, and one that goes way beyond science and into the realms of philosophy, ethics, even spirituality. It would be a complete game changer. It would force us to confront our place in the universe in a whole new way.
It's both exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. The thought that we're not alone, but that there are civilizations out there so advanced that we're practically cavemen compared to them.
It's a humbling thought, for sure. But that's the beauty of the search for extraterrestrial life. It pushes us to expand our understanding of what's possible, to confront the unknown, and to grapple with questions that have haunted humanity for centuries.
This has been an incredible journey so far, and I feel like we've only just scratched the surface. What else is in store for us in this deep dive?
Well, next we're going to take a trip through time and explore how our fascination with extraterrestrial life has shaped our culture, from ancient myths to modern science fiction. It's a story filled with both wonder and caution.
I can't wait. This is the kind of stuff that makes you realize just how much we don't know about the universe and how much more there is to discover.
Ready to go on a little mind trip through history? We've been talking about the science of finding extraterrestrial life.
Right, all those rovers and telescopes and stuff.
Exactly, but the truth is humans have been fascinated by this idea for centuries, long before we had the tools to actually search for it.
It does feel like that question, are we alone, is just something that's hardwired into us.
I think you're right. Way back before telescopes or spaceships, people were already telling stories about other worlds and the creatures that might live there.
So what were some of those early ideas about aliens? Were they picturing little green men way back then too?
Well, maybe not green, but the idea of other planets being inhabited is definitely not new. Ancient Greek philosophers, for example, they actually spent a lot of time thinking about what they called the plurality of worlds.
The plurality of worlds. What does that even mean?
It's basically the idea that there could be countless other planets out there, each with its own unique life forms.
So basically the ancient Greeks were already on the alien train. But I'm guessing their ideas were more, I don't know, philosophical than scientific, right?
Definitely more philosophical. Back then, they didn't have the tools to observe other planets directly, so it was all speculation and imagination. But it's pretty amazing that they were even thinking about these things thousands of years ago.
It is. So when did the search for alien life start to become, actual science? When did we move from just wondering to actually searching for answers?
Well, a big turning point was the Copernican revolution in the 16th century.
Right, Copernicus. He's the one who figured out that the Earth revolves around the sun, not the other way around.
Exactly, and that was a huge deal. Once we understood that Earth wasn't the center of the universe, it opened up the possibility that there could be countless other Earth-like planets out there and, by extension, other forms of life.
It's like our whole cosmic perspective shifted.
Exactly, and there were some really forward-thinking people back then, like Giordano Bruno, who took this idea even further.
Giordano Bruno, tell me more.
Well, Bruno was a philosopher who believed that the universe was infinite and teeming with stars and planets, and he even proposed that each of those planets could harbor life. Pretty radical for his time, right?
Yeah, a little too radical maybe.
Unfortunately, yes, Bruno's views were considered heretical by the church, and, well, let's just say he ended up paying a pretty heavy price for speaking his mind.
Wow, that's a reminder that scientific progress doesn't always come easy.
Definitely. But despite those setbacks, the quest for knowledge continued, and as telescopes got better, we started to get our first glimpses of other planets in our solar system.
And I bet that just fueled even more speculation about alien life, right?
Oh, absolutely. And no other planet captured the imagination quite like Mars.
Mars. The red planet, always a good candidate for alien shenanigans.
Right. In the late 1800s, an Italian astronomer named Giovanni Schiaparelli thought he observed what he called canali on Mars.
Wait, aren't those the infamous Martian canals that everyone got so excited about? Like, people actually thought that Martians were building these giant irrigation systems.
Yep, that's them. There was a bit of a translation issue, though canali simply means channels in Italian, but it got mistranslated into English as canals, which implies artificial structures.
Oh no, so it was all just a big misunderstanding.
Pretty much. As telescopes got better, it became clear that the canals were just optical illusions. But for a while there, the idea of an advanced Martian civilization really took hold of the public imagination.
It's funny how our perception of Mars has changed over time. We went from imagining a planet full of intelligent life to discovering a cold, dry, and, well, kind of boring world.
Well, I wouldn't say boring Mars is still a fascinating place, and we're learning more about it all the time. But yeah, the romantic notion of a planet full of Martians definitely faded away as we got a closer look.
So Mars wasn't the alien paradise we'd hoped for, but that didn't stop us from searching, right?
Not at all. In fact, the search for extraterrestrial life really took off in the 20th century. And then there was a major game changer, the discovery of extremophiles here on Earth.
Extremophiles, those are those weird creatures that live in places where nothing else can survive, right? Like boiling hot springs or the bottom of the ocean.
Exactly. And that discovery really changed our thinking. If life could thrive in such extreme conditions right here on Earth, it meant that our definition of habitable was way too narrow.
It's like those extremophiles were saying, hey, you're thinking too small. Life finds a way no matter what.
Exactly. And that realization made places like Europa, Enceladus, and Titan even more intriguing. Suddenly, the search for life wasn't just about finding another Earth, but about exploring the full spectrum of what life could be.
So instead of looking for little green men, we started looking for little green microbes.
Or maybe something even weirder. And that search continues today with missions like the Mars rovers and the upcoming Europa Clipper, all designed to look for those subtle signs of life in the most unexpected places.
And of course, we can't forget about SETI, the ongoing search for signals from intelligent civilizations out there.
Absolutely. SETI is still going strong with new technologies and approaches for scanning the skies. And while we haven't found definitive proof yet, the search itself has pushed the boundaries of science and technology.
And all of this scientific exploration has been happening alongside let's just say, a slightly less scientific fascination with aliens in popular culture.
Oh, for sure. From books and movies to TV shows and video games, we just can't seem to get enough of aliens.
I mean, we've got everything from cute, cuddly E.T. to those terrifying creatures from Alien. It seems like we've imagined every possible type of alien out there.
It's true, and it's interesting to see how those depictions have evolved over time, reflecting our changing understanding of the universe and our place in it.
Yeah, early science fiction often portrayed aliens as either super advanced and benevolent or as hostile invaders. It feels like our modern take on aliens is a bit more nuanced, a bit more realistic.
I think you're right. As our scientific knowledge has grown, so has the complexity of our fictional aliens. We're starting to see aliens that are truly alien, not just humans with funny foreheads.
Like in that movie Arrival, where the aliens are so different from us that we can barely even communicate with them. It makes you wonder if we'd even recognize a real alien civilization if we came face to face with it.
That's a really good point. And that's what good science fiction does best. It makes us think critically about the big questions, like what it means to be intelligent, what the consequences of first contact might be, and what our place in the universe really is.
And maybe, just maybe, all those books and movies are preparing us, in some small way, for the day when we actually do find out that we're not alone.
Who knows? But one thing's for sure, if and when that day comes, it will be one of the most significant moments in human history.
Absolutely. It's exciting, it's scary, and it makes you realize that we're living in a truly remarkable time.
It really is. And as we stand on the verge of potentially discovering life beyond Earth, it's more important than ever to think about the ethical implications of our actions.
Right? It's not just about satisfying our curiosity, it's about potentially changing the course of human history. And that's a huge responsibility. It's kind of like those early explorers setting foot on a new continent for the first time, except this time the continent is, well, an entire planet.
Or an entire galaxy, even.
Right, and we all know how things turned out for the native populations when those explorers showed up.
That's a good point. We definitely don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past. We need to approach the search for extraterrestrial life with a sense of humility and responsibility.
Okay, so let's dive into those ethical dilemmas. What are some of the things we need to consider as we venture out into the cosmos?
Well, even if we just find microbial life, say, on Mars or Europa, it's not as simple as just scooping up a sample and bringing it back to Earth.
Right, those little microbes could be carrying all sorts of weird alien diseases.
Well, that's definitely a concern, but it goes both ways. We also have to worry about contaminating those alien ecosystems with our own Earth microbes.
So we could accidentally wipe out an entire alien species just by bringing our germs with us? That's pretty heavy.
It is. It's called planetary protection, and it's a big deal in space exploration. We have a duty to preserve these other worlds, not just for scientific study, but for their own intrinsic value.
I never thought about it like that. It's like we're not just visiting these places, we're potentially changing them forever.
Exactly. And those concerns become even more complicated when we start talking about intelligent life.
Right, because now we're not talking about microbes, we're talking about beings that could potentially communicate with us, that could have their own cultures, and
And
societies.
their own values and beliefs, which might be completely different from our own.
Imagine if we accidentally offended an advanced alien civilization just because we didn't understand their customs. Talk about a cosmic faux pas.
It's not out of the realm of possibility. We need to be very careful about how we approach contact if it ever happens.
Okay, let's play this out. Let's say we actually receive a clear, unambiguous message from an alien civilization. What happens next? Who gets to decide how we respond?
That's the million-dollar question. It would have to be a global decision, a consensus among all the nations of Earth.
But can you even imagine trying to get all the countries of the world to agree on something as monumental as that?
It would be a huge challenge, but it's something we need to start thinking about now, before it actually happens. We need to have protocols in place, ethical guidelines, a plan.
Because once that message arrives, the whole world's going to freak out. Some people will be excited, some will be terrified, and there will be a lot of people in between.
Exactly, and we need to be prepared for all those reactions. This is about more than just science. It's about the future of humanity.
It's a lot to process. But isn't it amazing that we're even having this conversation? That we're seriously grappling with the possibility of life beyond Earth?
It really is. It speaks to the incredible power of human curiosity, our drive to explore and to understand our place in the universe.
This deep dive has taken us on an incredible journey. We've explored the icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn, we've pondered the mind-boggling vastness of the universe, and we've even ventured into the realm of science fiction.
And through it all, we've been guided by that one fundamental question. Are we alone?
And even though we don't have a definitive answer yet, the search itself has been incredibly enlightening. It's taught us to think outside the box, to challenge our assumptions about what life is, and to appreciate the sheer diversity of the cosmos.
It's also a reminder that we're all part of something much bigger than ourselves. We're all connected in some way to this vast, intricate web of existence.
So to our listeners out there, keep looking up, keep asking those big questions, and never lose your sense of wonder. The universe is full of mysteries, and who knows what incredible discoveries await us in the future.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the search for extraterrestrial life. It's been an incredible journey.